If you're PCSing to Florida, especially the Space Coast, there are a few things nobody really prepares you for. It's not just finding a house near base, it's insurance, commutes, storms, and figuring out where your family will actually feel at home. Today, Sherry Boswell is back to talk through the things that military families wish they knew before making the move. Thanks for joining us again today, Sherry.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you again because not only are you an expert real estate agent, you are also a retired Air Force veteran yourself. You've PCSed yourself multiple times, correct?
Yes, I have. It's been definitely a long journey. My husband was active duty as well. And so when I transitioned off of active duty, I followed him around and with all the kids and all the things and all the traveling.
Yeah. Is there anything when you were PCSing that caught you completely off guard?
The fact that you have no emergency contacts. When you land somewhere and you're putting your children into daycare or a program, they require an emergency contact. And when you have, no one, you have no one close by, you have no emergency contact. So strangers become your emergency contact.
Outside of that, what is one thing that you wish you knew before your first PCS?
I wish I would have known to pack a lot lighter. You really don't need as much stuff as you think you do, especially when you go overseas. You have to leave a lot behind because of the voltage and all of that. And so I think that was a great exercise in knowing what you can live without.
Mm-hmm. That's hard too, because you're leaving behind all of your stuff and your belongings and kind of starting anew. Is there anything or any moment that made you feel like, okay, I'm finally home after PCSing?
I think when you finally unpack that last box and you're able to make that home-cooked meal because you've been eating on the go and just running around. So unpacking that last box and folding it up and putting it at the curb and then sitting down for a home-cooked meal.
Okay,
you finally feel like you've settled.
I have to ask then, what is the home-cooked meal? Are we talking Italian, Mexican? Does it depend on where we PCSed to?
Probably so. I would think our family's favorite was any kind of chicken dish. So chicken parmesan, with spaghetti on the side, garlic bread, all the stuff.
Let's talk a little bit about some Florida surprises. So how different is the Space Coast from other parts of the state?
Well, I think when I first got here, I didn't know very much about Florida, especially the Space Coast. And I feel like it was such a gem. I lived out in Vieira before Target and Walmart and the Circle, and it was all like cow pastures. And I remember thinking to myself, this is so nice of a location because if you want to go to the beach, you're so close. If you wanted to go to Orlando shopping, you were so close. We were a short drive to Key West, really. We could travel and see all the different parts of Florida really within a day's drive. And I'd never had that kind of versatility because you could have a little bit of both worlds. Mm-hmm. And I think we were a hidden secret for a little while.
For a little while. And Florida is so vastly different. I mean, the Everglades and the alligators versus North Florida, which is a totally different environment. And East Coast to West Coast is night and day as well.
Exactly.
So what's something about Florida homeownership that surprises almost every military family when they move here?
I think sometimes the cost of living, I think we don't realize how much insurance impacts a purchase. Homeowners insurance has been a hot topic, especially for the last couple of years. And we've had to pay really close attention to that because it can even push someone outside their budget on their monthly mortgage, plus taxes and insurance. So we're really having to pay attention to that because it is at a significant expense now for a homeowner.
When during the home buying process do you typically tell your clients to start looking into the insurance piece of it that you mentioned?
We kind of do it on the front end. If they are super interested in a property, we're kind of starting to run those scenarios already. We will look at, if this is serious and they want to put an offer in on, we will chase down all of those squirrels. We'll see, and that's why it's so great to work with such good people in the industry. I can reach out to my insurance gals and guys, and I can say, hey, can you give me kind of like a flash quote on this property and tell me if there's anything that I need to be paying attention to. And so they can do that pretty quickly for me. And granted, it's not, exactly, but it does give us an estimate so that the homeowner can kind of make an idea. Because some people want to live Merritt Island till they see the cost of insurance, or beachside till they see the cost of insurance, whether it's a concrete block house or not. Mm-hmm. So
That is so helpful. And speaking of, like Merritt Island versus other areas, let's talk a little bit about the commute that some clients would have. So how much does a daily commute actually affect which parts of Brevard County that you tell people to live on?
Do you know what? It's not that big of a deal anymore. I think people realize Brevard County is actually, you can almost get anywhere within 30 to 40 minutes. And I know for my husband who works at Kennedy Space Center, when he retired from the military, his job is, at Kennedy Space Center every day. So it's a 40-minute commute. But fortunately, we live in Viera, so it's somewhat a central location. So a lot of our space industry, I'm currently working with a buyer that's going to be working at Blue Origin. Their buildings are right inside Kennedy Space Center gate. So it's definitely like 35 to 40-minute commute. My husband's work, he's got to go to the gate and drive another 10 minutes before he can get to his building. So you do have to kind of have a sense of where you're located in the community. I don't think the commute is as big as the school. If you've got kids, I think the schools, and that's playing a bigger part in the purchase.
So what types of questions would you ask somebody that's PCSing here to make a recommendation on which side they should live?
I think I'm going to ask them kind of a little bit more about their lifestyle. What do they do when they're not at work? How many kids do they have? Are they getting married? Are they newly married? Are they expecting a child? I have clients all over that spectrum. And so it really pays to kind of get to know them and get to know their lifestyle currently. I have some folks coming back to Florida now, and now they have 3 middle school children. And that's a lot different than helping someone with really little kids, or they're just starting out in their family, and schools aren't necessarily the driving factor. But their mom works from home. They need the commutability. The husband still is working in North Titusville. He might even work in Orlando at some point. So Viera makes really good sense for them. And so a lot of it is just really getting to know the needs of that buyer.
We had mentioned a little bit earlier before about how you're leaving everything behind when you PCS, and you know that feeling very intimately. How do you guide your clients when they're moving to the area on how to build a new community around them? Not just where they're going to be living, but who they're going to be surrounding themselves with, and the schools and the kids.
I always really encourage people, don't be isolated. When you isolate yourself, you're just going to make everybody else miserable. If you get out and figure out what you like, Brevard County has grown so much in the last few years. There is something for everyone here. You just have to look on the Facebook page for that community. There are so many activities, if you're a trail rider, if you're a biker, if you're on e-bikes now, that's a really big thing. If you like to surf, there's all kinds of communities out there. If you're a traveler, you like to go and take travel trips, there's a whole group of people that do that too, and they get together. And if you're single, just don't think it's just for the couples. There's a lot of groups for every season of life that you're in right now.
Or the Jeep clubs.
Oh, the Jeep club,
It
yes.
might depend on what
Everybody's
car you
ducking.
drive.
Is a duck thing? I don't even know what that means.
Everybody's ducking.
I know.
That's awesome. So what are some things that buyers from out of state don't even think to ask about purchasing Florida homes?
I think different areas bring their own challenges. And so I think sometimes they think they want beachside because they want to, go walk on the beach every morning or at night when they come home from work. But they don't understand the cost involved in living beachside. Everything is, salt water is hard on everything. Florida's heat is hard on everything. So you really have to pay attention to those kinds of materials, what your roof is made of, how old your air conditioner is. So I think people moving to Florida, some of those things that they forget to ask about is flood zones. Even when you're not on the intercoastal waterway communities, there's Suntree communities and Viera communities and Port St. John that are fingers of FEMA flood zones that you have to really pay attention to. And I think that's something people don't realize when they come over here, because even if you don't want a waterway community, there are still flood zones to contend with.
It's Florida.
It's Florida. We all used to be a swamp.
Exactly. So I kind of want to flip a little bit over to the people that are PCSing, and is there ever a time where maybe buying isn't the recommendation that you have for them? Are there any situations where renting makes sense for someone that's PCSing first?
Oh, absolutely. I think getting to know your buyer's needs when they come here, I think initially people often think, I want to rent. I don't know where I want to be. I don't know anything about this area. I want to at least rent for a year, kind of get the lay of the land and see where I would want to put some roots down. And that's fine. A lot of people are just set on that, and we're able to serve them in that way. But I always encourage them, like, renting in Florida right now, especially in Brevard County, if you're going, most people are here 3 to 5 years. The military just doesn't move people around like they used to. Certain career fields do, of course. Certain ranks do, of course. But on the most part, you're probably going to stay put at least 3 to 5 years. That's enough for you to have some and build some equity in a property. So why not use your VA mortgage for that and start building wealth today? Because even if this isn't your final destination for a move, it could be your entry point to building wealth. And the rental market is really strong here. So if you purchase something and maybe the market has softened by the time that you PCS, we can help navigate that for them. We can kind of say, this is what the rental market is looking like. This is how much your rent would be. And we can guide them in whatever that process is. I currently have someone who, they actually were a military officer. They thought this was their last station, and they bought their dream home. But a couple years in, she got offered a rank and was like, I can't turn it down. So
I've got a rank you can't refuse.
Exactly. So they did not want to sell their dream home because they eventually want to come back to Florida. So they were like, Sherry, what do we do? And I said, okay, let's rent it. Let's get a really great tenant in there for a couple of years. And then when you're ready, you can come back and this home will still be waiting for you. And so in that case, they bought knowing that maybe, but things change, And so I think that's by having good representation. Like, my clients just don't end at the closing table. Like, we work with them throughout their home buying journey and afterwards, just in case anything happens, or just if they need a conversation about, hey, we're thinking about moving, we're thinking about changing our situation. Can you give us some input on what your recommendations are?
Yeah, that's wonderful. They become part of your community.
Especially those veterans. Like, somehow you were always connected in some way.
Yeah. You had mentioned a little bit about the building wealth piece of it too, and I think that's something that people neglect to think about when PCSing or using their VA benefits and their entitlement. So I appreciate you bringing that part up. If you could go back before one of your first PCS moves, what's one thing that you would do differently?
I would have engaged a realtor a lot sooner. I think people often think that real estate agents just open doors, but we're really here as relocation experts. I've been in this area now for over 25 years, and I know a lot about my community. So engaging that person who's now the boots on the ground for you, if you know no one, you know nothing about the area, engage a really good realtor, because they're going to give you like relocation guides, give you feedback on a property that you saw. They can give you advice on what the rental market's looking like, what it's going to cost to rent versus buy, and give you some great local contacts for the lending community if they choose to use their VA mortgage. And I think it's one of those things too that people don't realize. Some folks are coming to Florida and they have used their VA mortgage once or twice, or they're currently in a home that has a VA mortgage on it. And so we have to ask all those questions, because that's going to be a way that we're going to be able to navigate their purchase here as well. So you can own more than one home on your VA.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
So in summary, what's one piece of advice that you would give to every military family before they make the move to Florida?
Have a little bit of savings. I'm a big save for a rainy day kind of gal, and moving always is way more expensive than you think it is. And you need a shower curtain and a trash can and all the things that you don't bring with you. So I would say always having a little bit of a cushion to kind of help you get over that hump of moving, so that you're not stressed financially. You're going to be eating out more. You're going to be, spending a little bit more on gas, driving around, looking at areas. So just make sure you have a little bit more savings than you think you need to kind of help bridge the gap between those moves.
Certainly. Because you're going to want to try out all the new restaurants, right?
Absolutely. But your realtor is going to give you some pretty good options.
She'll guide you on where to go for that first meal.
Absolutely.
Huge thanks to Sherry Boswell for joining us again and sharing what military families should know before moving to Florida. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more conversations like this. And if you're a veteran who's looking to buy a home in Florida, reach out to Morgan Financial. Our contact is in the description below.